When you look at the crossover segment, there are a lot of quirky opportunities out there where you can get chiseled, small, big, whatever you want to do. But behind me is maybe one of the best offerings. Hey, welcome to this edition of Road Warrior. I'm your host, Grant Roberson. Now, crossovers, blends, sedans, small atmospheres. This one actually scales it up just a little bit, specifically the 2018 GMC Acadia. And what I truly love is all the room on the inside. The remodel of the Acadia happened last year, basically taking the previous version and slimming it down and really getting rid of all the bulkiness that you saw and, well, fine-tuning it. Now, what you're going to see different for 2017 and 18, of course, it didn't change much, is the dimensions. Now, it's gotten a little bit shorter in the wheelbase by about half a foot, a little bit shorter in overall length by about 7.2 inches, and it's even narrowed again by about half a foot. Now, what does that equate to? Well, a little bit more snugging up on the inside. But either way, it still has that 3 rows of comfort, which typically associate with something not called a crossover. Now, when you look at the design, what I like compared to the previous version prior to 2017 is really the outside. A little bit less chiseling, a little bit less haunches, and you'll see this with some of the competition. Really, a lot of the models are going to a slimmer is better approach. Now, what you have also is a little midline that kind of weaves around the car. On this particular model, all color, body color all the way around, and some nice lower fascia. Really, this is an all-wheel drive model, so scrapes and dings can definitely happen as you throw rocks up the vehicle. This lower fascia definitely prevents that. Now, this is the all-terrain version, basically giving that all-wheel drive, the grip at the 4 corners, which may not be necessary in all parts of the country, so you may want to opt just for the front-wheel drive because it will save you a couple thousand at the register. Now, even though it's been diminished here and there, it still gives you decent offering when it comes to the size, really fitting quite well in the mid-size segment. By the numbers, about 193 inches overall, wheelbase around about 112. As for height, keeping fairly decent, easily under 6 feet, basically meaning you can get any tight spots really in those parking decks. Now, as for the shoes at the corners, you can come with standard 17, 18, or the optional 20-inch you see here. When it comes to power plants, you have 2 options. One's going to be better at fuel economy, and the other one's going to deliver a little bit more power. Now, what you have is a 2.5 liter inline 4-cylinder engine. That delivers around about 193 horses and 188 foot-pounds of torque. Now, for the as tested, that's a 3.6 liter V6. Now, it's going to be fairly decent at 310 horses and 271 foot-pounds of torque. I prefer the bigger is better because, after all, this is a fairly decent sized vehicle, so you definitely want to, well, get down the road. Now, what I like on this particular model basically is a subdued approach, basically the appointments. I don't like blinging it out, and I like to kind of keep it low key, and really referring to all the various accents. Now, they are a little bit glossy here and there, even right down to the roof rails, which I like that this comes with, because when you're going to the snowy conditions, even going to the beach, you're going to want to use this quite often. Now, as for ingress, I talk about the smart key systems. This key, very small, very easy to carry around, and basically everything's right here when you need to access. Now, it's not intuitive, basically a push button, not that difficult. What I also like is you're going to find that access at all points around this vehicle, so there's no reason to have to come to the driver's door particularly. You can do it anywhere you want. Now, swinging around to one last feature is the fill-up area, and this is always an Achilles heel to me if there's no security here, and that is the case. Basically, it's going to pop open whenever, and there's no security here, but I do like the fact that it is capless, one less step when filling up. Swinging around to the business end of this vehicle, one thing I want to talk about real quick is it's been trimmed not only in size but in weight by about 700 pounds. So anytime you trim the fat, it of course helps with overall fuel efficiency and, well, get up and go. Now, looking at the rear design back here, one thing you'll note is this huge bank of glass. It really wraps around, and with these back pillars being black, it almost gives you kind of a 180 look, really gives you a nice profile. Modest spoiler here, and body color everywhere you look, and of course a lower fascia. Now, as for towing capacity, we do have properly equipped back here, which means we can tow up to about 4,000 pounds. Now, there are safety features back here, backup sensor, backup camera, typical operation on an SUV. Now, as for the operation for the tailgate for this particular model, it is powered. Now, traditionally, I would think it'd be here. It just seems to be a nice, easy reach, but instead it's down in this little nook and cranny. Not a big deal. Just simply press it once, and it's going to rise to the occasion. Now, once it gets up out of the way, what you're going to see is modest cargo area, around about 12 cubic feet. Not shabby, and it's going to compare to a sedan. But for anybody that really got to haul things, you're going to have to start to fold these seats down. Diving into the cargo area just a little bit more, one thing you'll notice here on the Terrain are these heavy rubber mats. Now, it really couples nicely with this vehicle because after all, you're going to get into muddy situations and you're going to want to protect the interior. And you'll find this both here in the cargo area as well in the second row and in the front, really preventing any muck getting here on the floor, and really take these out and wash them. Now, underneath this rear cargo, you're going to find some compartments. This is really ideal for storing things in here, and with the material itself, you can actually kind of make this a little tailgating area with some ice and some drinks if you really want to. Now, clearing that out might be a little more cumbersome. Now, as for the overall cargo area, again, 12 cubic feet here, but as you fold this down, it's going to more than triple to around about 41 cubic feet, and it's made fairly easy with these little pull straps. Just simply pull it, the headrest naturally tucked down, and it's going to tumble forward, basically laying flat. Now, this is a 50-50 split, so you can opt for various options as you move from back to front. When you climb inside the Terrain, you'll be hard pressed to find those minute differences, because truly a ½ inch, where do you look for this skimping on the inside? I just couldn't find it. But what I like is the drivability. It does feel a little bit more tight and just a little bit more maneuverable. Now, when you look at legroom numbers, there's no compromising. Up front, around about 41 inches. Second row, still fairly decent, around about 39. And of course, the third row, to be expected, knee bleeding fun at around 31 inches. But overall, you can find decent comfort. And as you move back, maybe the kids way in the back, because obviously smaller statures are going to fit in there quite well. Now, the outside appointments didn't really give you any indication of what lies beneath on the inside, really talking about the contrasting leather you see. Now, it took a lot of people by surprise because it was just so different, kind of a leather saddle hide kind of approach, and of course that Terrain-like feel. But I like the contrast, and well, to each their own, whether you like it or not. One thing I've really come to love on GM's is the touchscreen systems. Nice broad offerings, real easy shortcuts, especially on the radio systems, the nice shortcuts down below. And all the buttons are really minimalized into this certain area here. Really symmetric knobs, just a few buttons. And if you get lost, a simple home screen's going to get you there. Now, what I also like is they do have the Apple CarPlay. Of course, you can go with the Android option as well. And really allows you to connect everything and relate to your phone using this screen. For climate controls, again, simplicity is key. 2 symmetric knobs when it comes to temperature settings, nice digital readout, and all the various modes in here. We've test drive some other vehicles that really make this process a little bit more cumbersome, but plain and simple here. Now, down below, you will find heated seats for both front occupants, and you really can differentiate between just the back or the entire chair. Now, this niche way down here is going to be USB connections and a power supply, and really enough room to put the devices there as well. Now, when it comes between the front occupants, basically going to find the standard operating procedures, dual cup holders here, good old gear shifter, which does have a manual-like mode if you want to have a kind of sporty feel. Now, down here is the operations for going off-road. Real easy to use, especially for this novice. Simply look at the little diagrams, turn it, call it a day. When it comes to the gauge cluster, a little bit of old school technology in reference to the analog tach and speedometer, but there is a nice digital readout in between, giving you information about the digital speed as well as the speed limit you might be going in that area. Of course, you can change that screen to other various informations. One feature would be nice to change all this over to the more digital readouts that a lot of vehicles are going to. Looking at the second row, first thing to really notice is the overall room back here. Really, when it comes down to leg room, my 6-foot+ frame easily fits in here. And again, those nice heavy mats I mentioned earlier really cover the carpet, keep the muck off of it, something that really is seen across the vehicle. What you're also going to notice is it's not typical bench styling, nothing really flat, but instead very comfortable. And you see that in all the seating positions. Really individualized attention in the outer post. Still a little bit of room here for the middle occupant, and no hump here on the floor. Really allows leg room to be quite comfortable. Now, as for positioning these seats, there's a couple of things. First, you can allow more leg room there for the back by simply pulling on the bar here. It slides these back and forth. Of course, if you want to lay it flat for cargo, really one easy tumble. And if you want to have reclinability, you can pull here and simply recline it. Now, this also, if you pull here, really will allow the seat to move forward and gives you kind of an ingress through this. So there's multiple ways to really access this vehicle and make it, well, that much easier. Now this is a tri-zone system, and again, you see this on bigger SUVs, and so I like the fact that it's on this particular model. Now what you'll notice back here for backseat drivers is you can simply handle your own airspeed, even temperature, and of course the various vent modes. Now what I like is the vents aren't really positioned right in this area, but instead right above you, so it gives you nice direct airflow. Now even better is you do have chargeability, USB connections, so everything's right here, so your backseat drivers have nothing to complain about. There are dual sunroofs on this particular model, one for the front occupants and one here at the back. Simply release it and it slides up out of the way. And that's going to give you, again, individualized attention for the backseat drivers. Now it does it for this edition Road Warrior, and a test drive behind the wheel of the 2018 GMC Acadia. This one being the all-wheel drive model with that V6 and heck 3 rows of room. And what we like is truly the drivability, the ease of ingress, and just the fact that it has a little bit of blend of full-size SUV feel with that kind of crossover blend. Now as always, I'd like to thank you for watching this edition of Road Warrior. Keep both hands on the wheel and eyes straight ahead. Walked in the shot. Hey, there's your water. Nope.